Magical Kids Doropi feels like a shift in the Famicom for me. The waning years of a console's life often have games released for it that take advantage of everything learned over the console's lifespan, create something truly special, and then go completely ignored. And then years later, people come back to that console and discovering these overlooked games. Also, they wind up being extremely expensive. We've already started to see a few of these. In fact, Aborenbo Tengu is another good example, and it was released on the same day as Doropi. But Doropi feels a little bit different, because this is a game that will break your wallet if you want a copy right now. If you just want a cartridge, you can expect to pay over 20,000 yen. If it wasn't for the fact that the weirdly rare Ego Meikon was released in the first 2 weeks of January, Doropi would be the most expensive Famicom game from 1990 to purchase today. And since it's the one that you'd actually want to play, that's a price that stings a bit. Confusingly, the game goes by 3 titles. The Japanese text gives the title as Magical Kids Doropi, but the English text on the title screen and cart just calls it Magical Doropi. I think it's easiest just to call the game Doropi myself. The plot of the game is way more convoluted than you might expect, but to hit the cliff notes, in 1999, evil magical robots from space and another dimension are taking over the Earth. But a kid manages to use a magic spell to summon the witch Doropi from a magical world to Earth, and she's going to go fight all of the monsters for him. In Japan, Doropi is often referred to as Magical Rockman, and there's definitely some similarities in how it looks and plays, but perhaps less than you might think from that description. You don't select what order to do the levels in, for example. There's 5 worlds with 3 stages and then 1 boss, and you progress through all of them in order. And there's something vital you have to know to beat the very first stage. Doropi begins the game with an absolutely enormous list of abilities. Hit start, and you can see all of the spells that she can use. You don't get a new ability when you defeat a boss, you just have everything at once. Your default weapon is normal, which is a bit of a misnomer that always gets me in trouble when I'm trying to play quickly, because it's actually the fire attack. Tap the B button and you'll do normal shots, hold down B to charge up and you'll do a big fireball. This should be your default weapon of choice against anything that has a lot of hit points. Like, for example, bosses. Right below that is fire, and fire is the only weapon that you choose that is instantly triggered when you select it from the menu. It destroys all enemies on the screen in exchange for 4 points of your life, which makes it a really bad choice to have something that automatically triggers when you select it. Freeze works much the same as normal, except when you charge up its shot, you fire a large ball that will freeze enemies in place. It's handy, but most of the time you're better off with normal rather than it. Though it does let you walk through these flame jets unharmed. A lot of enemies are placed where you can't easily reach them, and for that you have Ball. It fires a shot upward at an angle, but then it also ricochets around. There's no charging this weapon though, just mash the button. Shield is a fun one. Anything attempting to pass through it gets rebounded. That includes shots and fast-moving enemies. Of course, you do have to charge it up before you can use it. It's very good at enemies that throw lots of bullets at you, since you can sit behind the shield and kill them at your leisure. The final special ability is the most important one, Broom. When you have equipped this ability and hit fire, then your broom appears a short distance in front of you. Then you jump on it, and the broom will move in the direction that you shoot. You can fire upward in Doropi, but not down. And if you jump while on the broom just takes off at high speed. So while you're riding the broom, you're not very maneuverable. There are a lot of places in the game, though, that you have to ride on the broom for extended periods in order to get through. At least you can shoot while you're on it. Since there's no weapon energy in Doropi, what does drop from enemies is pretty limited. There's a small and big health refill, and the rare chance of an extra life. Doropi is an extremely difficult game. The stages are extremely long, and there's no checkpoints in them. When you die, you've got to do the whole thing over again from the beginning. You get 3 lives and infinite continues, but if you continue, then you go back to the start of the world. And through these long runs through stages to the bosses, you're often going to be put in situations where it's very difficult to avoid taking a hit. You'll find enemies that are invulnerable until they attack you, and tons of enemies with some steep sine wave patterns. You know, just like a certain game's Medusa heads. The third world cranks up the difficulty by having it take place mostly underwater, where you have an oxygen gauge that's constantly ticking down. You can take quite a few hits, but the stages are so long that you wind up getting whittled down through attrition. And you don't recover any health when you complete a stage. At least there are a ton of cheat codes to help you. There's a level select, an invincibility code, and you can play as 2 different characters. One of which is the boy who summoned Doropi, and he has a gun that does all of the same things that her wand could. In Japan, Doropi is pretty well regarded, though since it does come after the boom era for the Famicom, it's really only the Famicom fans who know about it. My take is, yep, this is a good one. Yeah, the game is absolutely controller-breakingly difficult, but you're also going to be spending a lot of time figuring out how to use your abilities in order to mitigate that difficulty. I still haven't managed to beat this one, but I'm definitely going to go back and keep playing it until I do.